Hey everyone, I've got a game here that I've been looking forward to for a while now. Ever since I first learned about it and its upcoming Switch release, I've had my eyes on this. And that's Tiny Terry's Turbo Trip. And I thoroughly enjoyed it from start to finish, but what I endured that you most likely won't have to is a lot of performance issues. And the reason for that is that I played this pre-release, so I didn't play it on the day one patch. I was able to check it out on the day one patch prior to making this video, and I'm happy to report that a lot of the things that I ran into won't happen for you. So I was initially going to go down the laundry list of issues, but they really whittled that down to only a handful of things that might hinder your enjoyment by playing this on Nintendo Switch. Now in this game, you're going to play as Tiny Terry, whose main goal is to drive a vehicle into space. Yes, you heard me right. Our little friend Terry here wants to drive his vehicle off into space and escape this area that he lives in. The way you do this is by collecting turbo junk, of course, and you'll use this in a few different ways. The first is that you'll use them in shops to acquire new tools. And then the second is the more important of the two, and that is to upgrade your vehicle's boost capacity so that you can make that journey to space. The premise is simple, comical, and kind of cute, and the game as a whole is all of those things. Every single NPC that you talk to will harbor, funny moments and interesting dialogue that's pretty wacky. And I think that's the key component of this that you need to take away, is that this is a really wacky game. It's really weird. But that was right up my alley for a cozy game. So after you acquire a vehicle, which is handled by the opening dialogue in the game, you're then going to be cut loose into the world. Now this is an open world game, but it is a very small area, but it is pretty densely populated. There's a lot to do here. In every single player that plays this, their experience is going to be a bit different. It doesn't really hold your hand, it just cuts you loose. You have a map, and you can see the mini map in the bottom corner of the screen. It's a little hard to read on Switch, it's really pixelated. But if you blow it up and you take a look at it, you have these question marks. And in each one of these is an area of interest. However you want to tackle these, whichever order you want, do as many of them as you want, or as little of them as you want. It's all up to you. So for that reason, I'm not going to dive into really any of these. You're going to see some gameplay of them, but I'm not going to go into each and every gameplay style in this, simply because that's part of the fun, is to experiment and to uncover these for yourself. There is one NPC in particular that you can get hints from in case you get stuck, but for the most part, clearing this game does not require a high completion percentage. You'll acquire turbo junk and regular cash to buy cosmetic hats as you play through this. The turbo junk is the main thing you really want to go for, since your goal is essentially to just acquire enough of it to upgrade your vehicle to reach space. Completing quests will net you more of this than just simply exploring the world, but one element of this that was probably my favorite is that this plays a lot like a collectathon platformer. It really did give me kind of Banjo-Kazooie vibes in that regard, not just for the way the dialogue is presented and the charm of it, but also that element of it as well. So I spent far more time exploring this world and looking for junk, and you can also acquire tools which you can utilize to do different things. Like you'll get a shovel and you can dig up holes, and sometimes there will be junk or cash hidden. You can also get a bug net, which you can capture bugs, and there's a quest tied to those. And then there's others as well, but again, I won't get into every little intricacy. Most of the activities and the quests you do are pretty fun. There are a few exceptions. I didn't really love the way the bug catching is handled. It's very delayed and sluggish. So the bugs kind of hop around, and then you swing, and you're always going to miss unless you just guess correctly on where they're going to be. And then the other thing, which is mostly the only quest I really didn't enjoy, is that there's a soccer quest that's near the elementary school, and I thought this was just terrible. It has 5 total games you're supposed to play, but I only did the first and then moved on. And that's something really important here, is you don't have to do anything that you don't enjoy. So if there's a quest like that you don't enjoy, you could just skip over it. I beat the game at only like 60% completion, so there's far more turbo junk here than you actually need to get through to the end. My main gripe with the soccer game is that the visuals are pretty blurry and pretty downgraded versus the PC release, and then the camera angle is like at this weird angle where it's really hard to tell where you're hitting the ball. So that one was really terrible to me. So with that mentioned about the visuals, now I do want to get into that a little bit, because the visuals are pretty heavily downgraded from the PC release. And to be clear, this doesn't look like a game that should have been downgraded as much as it is. There's often not very much going on screen, and there's a lot of issues with the visuals. You're gonna see lots of pop-in, weird shading and shadows. There's visual artifacts and bugs in the world. A lot of those things really kind of bog down the experience to me, because this is a cozy game. I'm not like engaging in combat and things that are distracting me from the visuals. I'm moving around the world and exploring and taking in the sights and sounds, so having all of these visual issues really kind of took me out of it and hindered my enjoyment a bit. Now, I mentioned I played this pre-day 1 patch, and something that I encountered that they seem to have fixed almost all of is that there was some serious frame rate issues pre-patch. Now, you probably noticed it throughout the gameplay because I recorded all of this before the update, but they thankfully did squash most of this. Once in a while, you'll still get a little bit of stuttering as you move through the world, because when you're driving, which is very like Simpsons Hit and Run-esque, which is an absolute blast, you're going so fast that I think the Switch has a little bit of trouble loading everything in fast enough, so you get some stuttering as it's attempting to load these things in. I think that's also why you get a lot of the pop-in as well. We've seen this in other games where you have a high mobility speed, but these things took me out of it. But, you know, I still enjoyed the core gameplay. So if you can look past the visual issues, those were really the only things about the game that I just didn't care for. The game itself deserves all of the praise that it received in the PC release. It's incredibly charming and a lot of fun to just explore and spend some time in this cozy world. There's a lot of humorous moments and funny dialogue and things like that. So this was really my speed of cozy game because it brought a high level of humor to it. A lot of the time, cozy games are more of like the cutesy type, where they're just trying to be cozy and cute, and they don't have that element of humor that this one has. So I really appreciated that about it. I think the Nintendo Switch version is a completely competent port in terms of just playing and enjoying the game. But if you have another option available to you, if you're able to play this on PC or Steam Deck or something like that, you might want to play it there instead, because it does have those issues with the visuals. But again, thankfully, the performance issues and the frame rate was squashed prior to releasing to all of you. So you don't have to feel the pain that I felt playing through this for a review. But I did still want to mention that there is still some frame rate hiccups. There are some visual issues and things like that. So if you're really sensitive to those things, then you might want to skip this unless you're really anticipating playing this and you really want to play it and the Switch is your only way to play it. You could still enjoy this game, but the Switch version's probably not going to be the ideal way to play unless it's your only option available. So this was Tiny Terry's Turbo Trip, which was definitely quite the trip. It was a fun little cozy game that I got lost in for about the 4 hours that I played it. You could definitely get at least about 3 more hours or so out of it if you care to do everything in it, because a lot of it takes some figuring out for sure. I hope you enjoyed this review and found it helpful. If you did, make sure to give the video a like. Comment below and let me know if you plan on picking this up for yourself, or if you have any questions. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already, and if you have, hey, appreciate you being here. But until next time, have a good one.